Yeah.
My YouTube? Okay, all right, cool. Because I'm live already. Do I need to quit it and go live again?
No, it should. Because you paired right now, it should have started.
Uh-oh. I hope it does.
And I need to toggle that.
It didn't change. So do I have to quit my live and start it again?
Let me see.
I think I may have to quit mine, like the Ecamm.
Yeah.
Okay, let me hit finish. I'll end that broadcast, and then I'll see if it starts again.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Team No Sleep, where we focus on the social impact of sports. Tonight is going to be a different session, right? I already sent out the tweet and the social media post notifying everyone that we will be discussing the raw and emotional Tyree Nichols situation tonight. We have a panel of individuals waiting to come on screen and share in their experiences, talk strategies, get emotional, but then be constructive in dialogue with each of us and you within our community. We're not going to solve this situation tonight. We're also not going to turn this into a bitch and moan session filled with a whole bunch of negativity. At the end of the day, we know we all have to do better. If you're down to have this conversation, stick around. If you only wanted to hear us talk tonight about, I don't know, Tom Brady retiring again or the point spread on the Super Bowl, we may not get to that tonight. But we definitely going to have those awkward conversations. We're going to try to do some things that are positive and constructive. We're going to have a call to action. So sit back, enjoy, let's go. All right, here we go. First and foremost, let me get my man Montel on here. He is joining remotely. It's good to see you, brother. Appreciate you for joining. I know I think you're at an airport or something of that nature.
Yes, sir.
But good to see you, man. Good to see you. Different kind of show we're going to have tonight, huh?
Absolutely. Being we're blessed to be able to have this kind of uncomfortable conversation, this dialogue to be able to discuss what happened.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I mean, it's almost 30 years to the date when the Rodney King, and we're still having the same discussion, still doing the same thing. So I'm ready to get into it and voice my opinion and also see through other people's lenses what they see.
Definitely.
See where we're at.
And folks, I'll say up front that the noise you hear again, Montel's at an airport, so he is jet set and he's traveling. So we're gonna rise above that. We're not gonna worry about that. We still gonna have this conversation. Let me bring on the panel right now. We've got 90% of the folks that we're going to join. Hopefully that 10% will actually get a chance to join as well, and we can have that dialogue and have that conversation. But let me go around the room to the two gentlemen that are on the screen right now, and then I can bring on the other gentleman. Brian, let's start with you, man. If you can tell who you are, and then we'll go to Josh.
Sure. As James said, I'm Brian Carey. I am 1/3 of the Infusion Network, and this is my second time teaming up with Team No Sleep, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. You couldn't hear anything I said, could you?
Yeah, we got you.
Heard it.
Oh, no, you sound crystal clear, too, as a matter of fact. Come on. Josh, what about you, sir?
Yeah, I'm Joshua Freeman. I am the other co-founder of the Infusion Network and the Infusion Breakdown Show podcast.
Awesome.
And I'm here with you guys also. I'm excited to be here.
All right. Let me bring this man up here as well, because, again, I'm over here doing things on the fly. And, sir, if you can introduce yourself, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, I'm simply Keith Pelzer, a songwriter, producer, and former pastor. Just ministering to everyday person. I'm on here as I'm also known as an influencer, but now an advocate, just helping out and voicing, making a change by voice.
Love it. Folks, I see you joining in the community with comments and things. It's going to be way too much for me to engage with the comments as well with the conversation that we're going to have, because I'm also trying to see if our other panelist is going to eventually join. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. Right now we got all these black men on this video panel right now talking again about a situation that is affecting our community. But as I was talking ahead of time, I was talking to Josh, this time is different. This time, it seems a little bit different, because it is a little bit different because of the perpetrators, because of the men that ended this person's life, and you saw from the quote that I put up, right? You don't have to be a criminal to say you're fighting criminals, and that's what's happened. Let's talk about the situation, and I know everyone has probably seen it, because today was the funeral for Mr. Tyre Nichols. Let's go ahead and get some of the emotion out. Montel, let me start with you, man. Be respectful to you as the co-host. Let's talk to you about how you feel about this situation.
Man, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Let's be frank about it. I'm pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, like I said, this is almost 30 years today when Rodney King happened, when we were young kids. And now the situation is coming again, and they kill this young man over something that we don't even care. We're supposed to prepare the seconds. You take this oath, you do these things, and yet we still can't protect anybody our own, because they have that badge and that road code of honor. And man, it's really frustrating. I mean, now we got to have another awkward conversation with our kids and our nephews and all that stuff about how young black men are we're hunted species. We're not only hunted by our own in our own communities because of the economic status and where things go, but now we're hunted by the people that are supposed to protect us. So I'm not in the attorney of the chicken, forgive and let go. I'm in the more like I'm very upset. And police reform, they need to really and how they're not reevaluating, how they're not listening to the community. I'm gonna tell you right now, man, we're going to see another George Floyd situation. I mean, when this gentleman not only been buried, but the paraplegic man that got shot, he just got buried as well due to police brutality over some BS. So man, pardon me if I'm frustrated, pardon our audience, but this is a situation that now I'm really starting to take to heart. I'm really starting to get really mad about, and I'm ready to pump my fist just like everybody else.
So let's talk about that, right? And again, because this is a whole different situation where we got the initial 5 police officers that were the ones that were pursuing Mr. Nichols for whatever reason, because we still don't know the reason for the stop. Right, we speculate because there are stories going around about maybe Tyre was involved with one of the officers' girlfriends or whatever the case may be. But still, that doesn't matter. I was gonna say that doesn't allow it to get to the street. But again, I'm trying to peel the apple back just a little bit with the onion. I'm trying to peel it back just a little bit. So, Josh and Brian, let me get into you guys again. You see this story, and we as young black men, how we already feel about law enforcement, how we already feel about authority, and you hear this story about 5 of us essentially taking one of us down. Talk to me again about just those initial thoughts, and then how it's gone over this past couple of days since everything has started to come out. And either one of you can start.
Personally, it makes me very upset. Not only with the historical context of what Montel was just saying, with the relevance to Rodney King and how we're still dealing with this, but it further strengthens my conviction and my stance on police officers. I understand that it's a necessary job to have someone enforce laws and things of that nature, but I'm very apprehensive with dealing with them in any capacity. I don't want to be around them. Nothing good comes from being around them. It's just and it's a shame that we have to feel that way, or that others share my same opinion there. And so one of the things that was really revealed here in this particular story, unfortunately, was that the myth of representation is being the cure to police brutality, and that's not the case. And it was a step towards progress, But I think now that we can rule that variable out, so very systematic, scientific method, you change something and then you see what happens. Okay, so we see that, okay, so this was a black man beat to death by other black men wearing the badge and uniform. So, I mean, people are a little bit quiet for people who are also vocal in other situations saying, okay, this person should have just obliged. And they were very vocal previously, but this time they have nothing to say. And so to me, the biggest takeaway is how big of a systematic issue is. I don't want to stop just there and just say the system, the system, the system, because I think it's so easy to just stop there and people are like, what the hell do you mean by the system? And it's okay, so it's the idea that when you change the players, the result is still the same because of the implications of the structure and the policies that are within there. And so, like one of the biggest things in it just in what I've been researching, I've been listening and reading in preparation for this is, for example, the police unions. That's something that is something that needs to be rethought. And without that, for example, we won't be able to make any kind of progress. So it really, I feel like this peels back the layers and really was eye opening into what exactly it is and how deeply problematic the issues that we face currently are.
I'm gonna ask Josh a different question, and then Keith, I want you to go a different route. So, because Brian, you talked about again the police system. You talk about trying to correct the entire system. Where do we go about? And I'm gonna start with you, Justin. Where do we go about addressing the entire system? Right? Is it the fact federal police reform is needed? Is it the fact that just more sensitivity? What's the right conversation to have for reform around the police department to address this situation? And again, like we were talking about, like Montel was talking about, the young man, paraplegic in LA, shot about 3 days later and killed. Right? Why does it have to go from an extreme of let's stop, halt, let me detain or whatever, to where we actually have to use this lethal force on every single time there's an issue going on? What is the extent? Where is reform for you, Josh, in the light of these situations that are currently happening? And they've been happening forever. We just now everyone's got these $1,000 cameras in their pockets, so I can get it out there on TMZ and I can get it on CBS in a minute, right? So now we all see it. Everyone sees it now. We've seen this. This is nothing new. So what are your thoughts, Josh, again, about reform and at what levels, and how can we stir and spur change?
I think when you talk about reform and actually talk about actually fixing the problem, you have to first go to the root of the problem. My initial reaction to the actual video, aside from it, of course, being horrific and heinous, was I feel it shows the climate of hate and the climate of inferiority that has been perpetuated by the white power structure on the black man and black
Okay.
people in this society since its inception. And I think it's been perpetuated so much that some blacks have become influenced and practice it, whether consciously or subconsciously. And I think this video is proof of it. And then when I say inferiority, I mean inferiority of being viewed as a second class citizen, because that's how they viewed him. They viewed him as a second class citizen, or the inferiority of having the stigma of being viewed as a brute, or the inferiority of having the stigma of being viewed as dangerous, because that's how they viewed him. That's why it got to where it was. And to me personally, I would say when a group of black men work in a position under the white power structure, in a position that is usually run by white individuals, where they have to uphold policies and rules made by the white power structure, then this isn't a huge surprise for me. And I would say it's not a huge surprise for me because personally, I've read stories about stuff like this happening before. Stories about black men flexing their so-called superiority in certain roles, like a police officer, to other black men and other black people. And it's mainly due to the trauma that the white man has placed upon the black man trying to flex their superiority. And if you need an example, it's no different than an abusive dad. When an abusive dad is abusive to their son, more times than not, they're gonna take it out on somebody else, someone that's weaker than them, more than likely another child. So I think we have to be aware that these things happen. You only seeing it now because that was on video.
Yeah.
And to even start to fix the problem, you have to first build a better relationship between police and Black and brown people in these underprivileged communities. And at the same time, Black people have to become more aware of their own traumas and biases that come from that inferiority. And once they become aware of those traumas and biases, they can then work to get in positions of power. And then once they're in those positions of power, they should help other Black people get in those positions of power. Because a part of the inferiority complex is believing that Black people are not trustworthy or deserving enough to be uplifted because they didn't get out of their situation like Jay-Z did, or they didn't get out of their situation like Tyler Perry did. And that's why it's important to put the right people in the position of power, the type of people that's aware and want to genuinely do something about the problem, not just profit off of Black folks. And then you can go about changing policies and rules and actually fixing the system.
So there's good points, and I see Montel over there itching, I know. But Keith, I want to get your first take as well. But I want to challenge you on that, man, because specifically in Tennessee and in this area, and I tried to reach out to a couple of brothers I know in Tennessee, but they were unavailable tonight. Hopefully they're still watching at least. There are people in power in Tennessee in this particular situation. We have a Black woman chief of the police in power in this particular and these men were part of an elite force. They called themselves the Scorpions, street crime organization to restore peace in our neighborhoods. Now,
a lot of times when people get in positions of power, they still have to abide by the white power structure and the rules
come on now.
that are
Okay, come on.
the white power structure.
Okay,
So
you see what I do now. I pick at the scab. I'm trying to get it a little bit deeper, but see, I
no,
didn't just want to
understand.
let you off at that. But okay, come on now.
No, I understand. Usually, when people get in that position of power, that's part of the inferiority complex too. Of you get in that position of power, you become so comfortable that you don't think about actually change. You're so comfortable with the so-called assimilation of being in that position of power that you don't think about the other people in the street that are actually
The
still being
assimilation.
the discriminated upon. So that's so it's not so much of getting that position of power. It's about being aware of your impact in that position of power and what they can do for your own people in that position of power. Because if you're just
Okay.
being in that position of power and you're abiding by the same white power structure, and then it's not really that much change is going to do. You can become influenced by that too.
Okay.
And just really quickly, those individuals, it breeds a lot of self-hate because we can see just as quickly as the tables can turn. For example, when the officer, he was a military officer, and he was pulled over, he was pepper sprayed, and he had that horrendous incident occur. So it's like these officers, they switch their identity mentally. They're first and foremost, they're officers and then they're Black men. They're not Black men first and then officers. That's how they perceive themselves. But they don't realize that who's to say that there's somebody else somewhere else that doesn't respect their jurisdiction. They could be out of state traveling as a Black man in regular clothes and the same thing happening to them. So it's a mental shift in their self identity, and that is part of what Josh is saying. What happens inside of the power structure? It's like, okay, now it's us versus them, as opposed to this is us as a collective. They no longer see themselves as us.
Keith, you got comments on your screen. What do you
Listen,
think?
you know what? And listen, I'm in agreement with everybody saying. I
Okay.
love panels. I love sharing with brothers. This was the first thing I picked off and hit the spot. 1006 said not
Yeah,
different.
that's Tammy Chambers. Yeah, she knows what she's
Okay.
talking about. Yeah.
It's the police vulture, or I think it meant culture, period. So cops, Black and white, have been targeting Black people. This is just a time where Black cops got caught. So let's go with this. If we stick with what we first knew, and all we saw was the Black people involved, then after a while it starts to slide out, oh, it's white dude there too, and it's other people there. We seen a white EMT there, whatnot. But at the same time that this is happening, I'm watching it because, in a pastoral position, still ministering, I'm like, I know a lot of people that's like, I'm not even going to watch it. Questlove was like, don't even watch it, right?
Yeah.
The more you say don't watch it, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to watch it. So somebody's got to be the person to look at it. And as the councilman said and a few others, they said, we have to sit there and watch it. And this needs to be like some kind of training ground to show you this is what we do. And black folk gonna have to see to pull that indoctrination out, that whether black or white, as this person said, once you get into it, black people are always looked at a certain way. So it's kind of like, oh, if they white or something like that, be careful, because you might get the electric chair. If it's another race, you might get this, that, and the third. But it's like, black people, right? And amazingly, Emancipation just came out. We can all be mad with Will Smith over the Chris Rock thing, but if you watch that movie, the movie was all about anger about the beatdown. And as Josh put in there, this is another angle that some people don't listen to. We have beat kids for so long. I'm just saying, we as a culture, right? And I argue this. I don't argue with the church mothers like, oh, that child need a belt. Okay, but okay, grandma, we done moved into 2002. Rethink this real quick. I don't have to beat my kids, right? But I got a belt. My cousin's got a extension cord. When I watch Roots and watch other stories, I'm like, you look like them. So now don't think that the cops ain't thinking that way. So when they're just like beating this guy, now mind you, this is slightly different, because it's not like they had guns out shooting at him on the run. Nobody thought about pulling a gun to shoot him while he was running, because it's black people pointing at black people. They wasn't thinking about shooting. So they think we just gonna beat the crap out of him. Yeah. And they end up killing him anyway, because the mentality is still off. The mentality is jacked up. And as Brian's saying, and Montel, I'm gonna let you pick up, because I know you're at the airport if you're coming from a different angle, whatever. But I think we're kind of all going down the same line of, yes, the system is screwed up. And when people come into it, we get this idea that, oh, I'm gonna make the difference, but there's not a strong enough push on make the difference. So we do have to ask the question, what was going through y'all goddamn minds when y'all beating this dude? And then the aftermath of not even saying, well, we beat the crap out of him. Yo, you all right, homie? I mean, you was running. Nobody even said, like, you shouldn't have ran and I wouldn't have hit you. Nothing. So I don't have no feelings for these guys at all, because I'm like, dude's falling over, and then y'all going to spin the narrative to talk about he on something.
Yeah,
I'm good. Montel, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And before Montel, because when Montel started talking, I want to give him some of these flowers. I see the community is showing him some props too. That's where this whole thing switched, even for me as well. Right? Okay, we've seen the Rodney King. We've seen all of the other situations that happened. But when these dudes were beating him down, and when they were done, they were making up all these lies about, he grabbed my gun, he tased me, he's probably high on something, go right. All that, and no one showed any remorse. I don't even know if it's remorse or just human sensitivity, right? You got all these guys beating him up, giving him, I think it was 71 commands or something to go do this, put your arm behind your back, do all these things within a very short span, and can't nobody do that, especially when they get hit. And the part that's got me, and my parents are on here, and I'm gonna try not to say any words that I don't want to say. I don't want to say any bad words, but man,
don't be scared.
But and I'm gonna end up crying here on the screen here when the man started calling for his mama. Right, that right there just shows the man. All he wanted to do was get home, so he could be with his mama. Right, I can be safe from all of this madness that's happening to me. Why are these brothers beating me up? Why are these police who are here to protect and serve? Why are they all beating me up? And throughout the entire ordeal, being tased, being hit, being punched. If you did see the video, and again, it's kind of human. You if you had access to it, if you Googled it, you looked and watched the video. Tyre Nichols was calm and collected under duress the entire time. You know, I think that his first statement was, y'all really doing too much right now. Right? So that's Montel and I come from a very emotional perspective when these types of things happen, and this is actually hidden even further because I found out not too long ago Tyre Nichols is from Sacramento. Boy went to the school where my father-in-law used to be the superintendent for. One of the schools in his district. Boy rode his skateboard at a park that I've driven by many a time. So this boy is from here. All right. Go ahead, Montel.
Well, I mean, I'm going to agree and disagree with some of y'all. First of all, Josh, I agree kind of with a lot of statements you have, but I mean, as far as the cops knowing better and the power structure and their mentality about that, this been here. We seen it we seen it on screen in Boys in the Hood when the black cop was trying to be showing out for the white cop and show his inferiority then. So this has been a written rule within that police culture forever. You know, I'm the more in charge of you, and I'm there, and I agree with where you were going with it, but I'm not giving them dudes no kind of pass. I think those dudes knew exactly what they were doing in tracking down this young man Tyreek and beating him to death, and I believe they sought out. Maybe they didn't mean to kill him, but they knew what they were doing when they were extremely beating on that young man. And this is not new. Black cops have been effing up us black teens forever. I've been hit by a black cop. It was a cop, period. I've been hit by a Mexican cop. It's all the same thing, man. That I'm better than you kind of mentality, or no, I'm always right. I'm the boss here.
Right.
I'm this, I'm that. That's the mentality they have. And they look at us not only as second-class citizens, but they look at us as animals. We're lower than second-class citizens. We're animals. We saw when they was riding with the Haitians up there when they was trying to come across the border, how they treated them like cattle. If your skin has dark melanin, we are animals as far as their destruction is concerned. And what do you treat animals like? You treat them like animals. You do what you want to. You abuse them, you do what you want to. And that's the way they look at us, like that. And I'm going to have to disagree as far as discipline is concerned, as far as what kids is concerned. I'm a product of a kid that got a whooping. I don't mind. I think there's a fine line between discipline and when you're spanking a child and when you're not, and that doesn't carry over to your lifestyle. I think that part is okay. So I'm going to disagree with that as far as you don't have to beat your kids, but you do have to discipline them and put them in situations where they don't react like this, where they understand when there's a part of discipline when you have to follow a main line and, of course, a line of action to be able to do right and do wrong. Some parents don't agree with it. I don't really have a problem with it. As long as you ain't abusive, it's okay.
But Montel, let me say this real quick. I'm on the same page with you, right? I don't fault my parents, and I've never threw my parents under the bus because I got a beating, because I think I needed it, right? But what I'm saying is my cousins got the whippings, but I realized, I was like, one of my cousins, I'm like, yo, he ain't like that. Like, I was a prick. And I don't know how much we can talk on here. Y'all can judge me from being a clergy, whatever. But I'm
we
like,
all good, brother. We family. Come on.
Listen, I was the pain in the ass kid. I was like, why the hell we gotta go to church this, that, and third? Like, boy, shut your mouth. I'm like, you know, my dad said, shut up. And I got the backhand. You know, it was a go get the belt. I needed it. My sister didn't need it. And it didn't make her no better having it. So I'm with you 100%. I mean, I say stuff to my oldest, like, boy, if you do that, I'll knock your ass out. I'll kill you, right? I don't mean I'm gonna kill you. But if we start to plant that mentality, right? The beating was just, I'm disciplining my child until it's, how much more you gonna do this? And I realize it's what we saying. Cops, why couldn't y'all just talk to him and not put your hand on him? That's the first thing a parent will say. If his mama had made it out, she's not, okay, they got the club, they beating him. Like you said, I was glad to hear you say, I don't think they intended to kill the kid, but it bit him in the ass anyway because of how we think about discipline. So in a sense, black dudes on this black dude, I'm going to show your ass and I'm going to beat you. Don't you put hands, give me hands, give me hands, give me hands. You talking and whipping, that's slavery. That's slavery. That ain't discipline.
To me, it's an inferiority complex, and it's a bullying mentality. I'm going to bully you. I'm going to do what I want to you. And since I have the power and authority to do what I want, because cops have this theory, they can do whatever they want, whenever they want to whoever they want. Every cop I run across has that kind of mentality. I'm a person of authority, so you better listen to me. That's why they talk to us crazy when they pull us over and ask for our ID. That's why they talk crazy to us when we just have to have a simple conversation with them. And it's funny. I know you were saying they have to sit. I know Josh and I think you said how they have to sit. Oh, we do too. As long as we're working for the white person, we have to sit right too. We don't react that way. And I'm not going to give them the pass because they have to sit to the policy. You can make a change within the power structure. And be two different people. We do the right way. These assholes took it upon themselves to beat somebody. And I'm going to tell you right now, the way they beat that man, that was the first time they beat somebody's ass in the street. That wasn't the first time I'm gonna whoop somebody's ass and we're gonna go ahead and get it off on them. They whoop other people's ass, just happen to get caught on. So I don't feel any empathy, and I feel sorry for young black men because they got to go through this every day because these black cops, man, cops in general, or black cops, they got it out for them. And we got to look at the structure as far as reformation. Who are they hiring, man? How come it only takes you 8 months in the academy to become a cop, but it takes you 4 years to get a degree in college? How can you train a person that has only had eight months of training to be able to be equipped to go out there and defend and protect my parents in the jungle? It's not, that whole shit needs to be reformed. It needs to be changed. Because if it doesn't get changed, it's going to be more and more problems.
Let me ask you guys this about this situation. I mean that's good stuff, right? And folks, please chime in because again, like I said at the beginning, we not here. We not gonna solve this tonight, but folks that are in the comments, folks that are on this panel, folks that are asking these hard questions, we're gonna try to do something different tomorrow. We know there's gonna be more stories like this. Unfortunately, we know Reverend Al Sharpton is going to go do another funeral. We know, unfortunately, Kamala Harris is going to go do another speech. We just know that there's been going to be more situations like this that happen. But within our sphere of influence or advocacy, because I don't like the word influence, within our sphere of advocacy, how do we go about addressing that? How do we? So Montel, how do we fix? In our control, is it through voting? Is it through going to those city council meetings? How do we tell the people in the know? And I don't even want to show these videos. Let me scroll off that. I don't even want to show the video. How do we affect change within the systemic system of policing? Do we do like hit the spot, like Tammy was saying, get more people physically within the neighborhoods and the streets? You know, you think about the old East Coast way where they had the cop on the block thing. Look, Keith, you in Philly, Josh, you in Virginia. So I mean, we know about the cops walking up and down the block and kind of having that mentality of a little more closely knit supervision.
Somebody just dropped in. They said we have to police our own communities.
Yeah, that was the conversation from Hit the Spot from Tammy Chambers. Yeah, that was bringing up. But how does that bubble up to actually making fundamental change that reverberates out to not just Rising Mist, not just our street, and I'm telling everybody my real street name is, but that's my old street. But from our neighborhood to our entire community, to our cities, to our states, and things like that nature. How do we effectively make change happen?
I think first we got to start holding our people that are in those situations accountable. The Maxine Waters of the world has been talking all this
okay,
but there's no action.
Drop some names, okay? Drop some names.
I'm gonna just keep it real.
Because I got a name to drop too in a minute, and it's one that you brought up, and we gonna have a real conversation about this crazy about it.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, I'm just saying, people like that, her in these situations need to be able to echo and scream louder. I mean, I know I'm tired of seeing Ben Carson and Reverend Sharpton going to just pleading the case of the situation.
We're tired of hashtags. We're tired of hashtags. Yeah.
I'm tired of hashtags, and I'm tired of those outcries. Why are people in the positions that be echo out what's going on, what's wrong? I was so proud of that young lady, the police chief of Memphis, because she was talking about accountability. She held herself accountable. She held the police force accountable. She made sure she was going to hold these 5 gentlemen accountable for this situation. As you see, she's digging deeper and again, everybody getting fired and getting charged. Mm-hmm. So I commend her on her first lane. But I mean, where's Kamala Harris? Where's our vice president talking? There needs to be change, man. There's no one in those powers that be, because I hate to say it, man. This story in 3 months is going to be gone. It's going to be washed away. We ain't talking about Breonna Taylor no more. We ain't talking about Floyd no more. We ain't talking about the brother that got killed in Georgia no more. We ain't even talking about those no more. Those things are kind of in the backpack. And actually, we're starting to become numb to it. This is just a hot ticket of the day. We can't let it go, and they can't let it go without preaching about it. That's the part that's more frustrating than anything. So when you say how we change it, that's the $1 million question. I don't have the answer, but I can tell you right now, if anything, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight in whichever way it needs to be. If it needs to be the political thing, we need to go out and vote. Do I need to march? Do I need to put on gloves? Whatever it is, I'm ready to fight. Because at this day right now,
because you're tired. I mean, at the end of the day, right, we tired. So let me ask this, and I'm gonna position this to Josh and then to Brian and then to Keith. Why is it so? We're asking. Montel right now is asking for the Kamala Harris's, for the Maxine Waters, for those folks to be louder and to be more at the forefront of this. Why is it that this brother's at the top of the list right now? Why is it that Jason Whitlock is the man? Is the I don't even want to call him a man. Why is it that he is at the top as the forefront of the news cycle in terms of what's going on within our community? And why is he talking this outlandish mess about blaming this whole situation? You see the title, blaming the situation of Tyree Nichols being beaten and murdered by the police on the fact that Memphis, Tennessee is led by a single black woman. Because the police chief of Memphis, for y'all who don't know, is a black woman. And so he's blaming this whole thing, this breakdown of society, this killing on the single black females. This man got a problem. Josh, what you think? This man got a problem.
To be honest, with you, I don't even know who this is. I don't know who Jason Whitlock.
So he used to be he's an analyst for ESPN and for Fox. So he's just a loudmouth commentator who has been on those networks, voicing his opinion and voicing his thoughts on all kinds of situations. But again, every single time something happens and we see him on the news, it starts on Fox. Listen, that's just where it is. Fox is not a news channel. Fox is an opinion network. They all focus on the opinion. So the Tucker Carlsons and all them, they don't focus on the news. They focus on spreading opinions on situations that are happening. And this man right now has this big platform where he's been on Fox channel, Fox Network, spreading his opinion where he thinks that this situation is directly in relation to the single black family where there's just a woman running the household. And that I can't even say it right because it doesn't sound right coming out of anybody's mouth. And I got a problem. Kevin right here saying, listen, this is blasphemy. Right? That's the word right there. That's what this is. This is blasphemy.
I think it shows the inferiority complex, one, and it shows how, once again, the white man and the white power structure would get one of our own people just to put him on TV, just to divide and conquer us even more than he actually already has already. And to go back to your actual solution of what we can do as far as that and the reform efforts, I do think it starts with having black men, black people identifying their own traumas and actually dealing with those traumas, because I think it definitely is rooted in that inferiority that is taught to the black man, whether consciously or subconsciously, and whether they practice it consciously or subconsciously. So it really goes down to that. And then once we do that, we can start getting into positions of power, whether it is in actually with the right mindset, we can get into these positions of power and actually change the rules and the policies and actually start making credible change rather than just getting in these positions of power and adopting the same mindset of the white power structure and going by the same rules and policies. So it's about the mindset. It's about your mindset, your awareness, and then actually wanting to make change. And a lot of people don't have that.
Are we scared?
Part of it, I do think a part of it is it's too risky, which is the same reason why you have athletes now won't make huge strides to change their situation, because it's messing with their money. Like, I mean, how much you going to protest this owner for a black killing or something of that nature when you're getting broke because of it? It's too risky for a lot of black people. So that's why a lot of black people don't do it.
I'm gonna challenge on that. Okay. Hold on, Jack. I'm gonna challenge on the risk. On the risk thing, I mean, I hear you, and I think you're right. You're absolutely right. But how come they're not risking when it comes to issues of dealing with LGBTQ? Sorry, I didn't like the Q. LGBTQ. They're boisterous about that. They speak out on volumes of that. They parade and march and do volumes of that. How come we're not risking when it comes to issues that deal with Jews? Their community comes out and they'll come out in the forefront and argue their cause all the way. Why is it when it comes to anything that deals with black folks and defending us and defending our rights and defending what we need to do in order to make change, it's all of a sudden now it's a risque. It's risque. We're afraid all of a sudden. I ain't afraid of nobody except one person. That's God. That's it. Everything else, we all born to die, right? So at the end of the day, why is it all of a sudden so risque for us to speak our opinion and our feeling? And I understand LeBron James and all those guys, they got to keep their commercials because they work for the white man. But also in the same token, when the white man wants to speak about a cause that's affecting them or they're passionate about, we do it in a heartbeat. And that mindset, I don't want to even depend on the athlete to do that. You don't need to echo my thoughts as an athlete or an actress or an entertainer. I can echo my thoughts as a human being, as a black man that's proud, a hardworking person that pays his taxes. That's what we need to start echoing this out and start forming that camaraderie amongst ourselves to be able to echo that message on out to people. I just think we're missing that leadership within our community. We had it back in the day when we had Malcolm Martin.
Yeah.
And then, Jesse, even though Jesse wasn't that great, he tried to lead us from there. And since Jesse fell off, there's not been one person to be able to step up to be the voice of black people to lead us in that direction, to make sure he echoes those things. People think Minister Farrakhan is too radical. Other people think it's okay. I don't know who that voice is or whether we need to be collectively as a community to figure out a way. But I don't agree with the risque thing, man. We need to be past that. In this day of information and age, we should be able to say what we want to say. And within the content, don't get me wrong, you can't piss off your boss and you can't mess up your money like that, but there's other ways to be able to make that out. If you don't agree with saying it out loud, fund somebody that will say it out loud for you. Prince is a perfect example. He helped so many people and he did it so quietly, right? But he made sure his causes or whatever he was passionate about, he did it effectively on the back end, and we didn't find out till he's dead. These dudes are these entertainers and all that. They want to voice their opinion and be leaders in that stuff and support a community that does it and then voice your opinion on the back end and make sure it's getting run. Because big time with us black folks, the one thing that holds us back is not our ideas and not our actions, but it's our funding. Right? We never have a funding to get it out to the masses. We need to somehow to get that power structure back in place. That's my opinion, Josh. I'm not trying, I'm putting this spot, but that's kind of where I'm kind of see it, man. And I do appreciate what you said, man. I really do. I'm definitely looking for you next.
Let me ask this and kind of piggyback on that, and Josh, you can chime in when you want to, but because the conversation is leading towards, again, looking for leaders within the community. So I'm a point upwards. I'm a point to you, Dr. Pelzer, because you've been
don't say doctor. I ain't no doctor.
Well, I'm gonna give you some certificates and degrees already, but right, you've been in front of crowds. You preach the good word. You have the eyes and the ears and the concentration of a lot of folks, right? You can stir up emotion. You can make people feel real good for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whenever the sermon's playing. And I've seen you on the organ, right? You can drive change while you're speaking. So I would lean towards the black church. I would lean toward, and so Montel, I see where you're going, but again, I'm trying to
because I'm probably about to jump right on with I noticed his face is probably saying. Me as a third generation pastor, let me tell you something that we got screwed up.
Okay.
Because here's my belief when it comes to those who believe in Christian faith or whatever your faith is, right? We start to make the pastor, the imam, the clergy, right? The priest, whatever. We try to make them the politician, or we think that they're supposed to be the politician. That is not so. If my job is to preach the gospel, right, then I don't know politics. So I gotta choose ye this day what politician I'm behind him. Like, yo, what you saying, or if ain't nobody saying it, I'm voting for the person I believe that's going to make the difference. I don't need to become the politician. So I have a pastor friend that is a police officer. He had us walk in neighborhoods for a whole month, right? I didn't go this one night. It was on Lehigh Avenue in Philly. Bullets flying past their heads while they sitting out there praying. Wow. The Saints had to say, you know what? Cops is supposed to be in these streets, but our job ain't to sit in the middle of gunfire, because we can go to the church and pray. And some people argue, they be like, oh, the Saints got to get out in the street. The Saints ain't got bulletproof vests on. The Saints ain't carrying like that. That's not our job to do that. Don't throw it all on the church. And now all of a sudden we want Jesus to handle this. Take your lane and do what's in your lane. So we're not expecting that much, because most of the churches I've been in, they full of black people that don't vote. They don't get out in the streets and do nothing after we say amen. There's a job to do. We don't need to stop Bible study about Jesus to talk about the violence in the street. we're the ones that's going to pray about the violence in the street because we praying to the God that we serve every week. But after the amen, after we take off them church clothes or whatever, who are you in the streets with? Like, who are you around? Where's your voice at? And don't just slap we got to pray about it on. No, after Sunday service over, it ain't just we got to pray about it. It's what are you doing? Because you are still a tax-paying human being in this world. So, and in a sense, I'm like, I've never been a proponent of dumping it all on what they going to do. Because it's like, come on, man. Some church folks still have a problem with knowing the Jesus that they shouting around the church about. That's a whole different struggle. So how much they going to be that value sitting in the street now trying to play politician? You ain't a politician. So back off of that and don't jump into an area that you're not in. Support them people, whether they go to church, whether they atheists or not. If they fighting in the street that you don't get on, then you need to support them. And if they wrong, you need to get in there and change it by the vote. And the voice reaches the next person, which reaches the next person. So first things first, you got to separate the arguments, right? You got to separate the things. And one thing I want to put on what Montel was saying, though, now we're in a social media day and age. So people sit back and watch something and say, oh, I'm tired. We got to do something. Well, again, like I said, while people watching about the Tyre incident, I'm getting hits from where my church is and somebody just got shot. So it's like, this ain't new stuff. When we see this stuff, we react like it's brand new and we get on the trending thing and we keep missing. And that's why, like you said, 3 months. I agree. Montel's like 3 months. Everybody done forgot about it. And here's the thing. Here's the point I wrote down. Take care of the good grass and it'll control the weeds. Now, what I don't mean don't address the problem. But an old preacher said, if you take care of the good grass, it'll kind of like control the weeds. What that means is you lift the great relationships now and you magnify them. Not phony, but you magnify it. Now, in that unity, you call on them same black cops or those white cops or all those people that you was kumbayaing with me for the Eagles parade. Because at the Eagles parade, what nobody like F the police.
Come on now.
They climbing up poles. If you climb up the pole right now in Philly, the cops gonna lock your ass up. But when the Eagles won, we just climbed up the poles and the news like, ha, 5 people on the pole. And it's good now. Nobody got their ass whipped. Nobody got shot. But after the Eagles game over the next day, guess what? They try to steal my sister's car. Somebody else I know got carjacked. Black on black. Now, I'm not putting the bad on black people, but at that point, it's like this stuff ain't new that we looking at. So this just one of them aha moments. And again, I have to agree with Montel. Montel's my new internet bishop. But I'm agreeing with him on this. He like, Keith, I hear you, but I ain't giving these dudes a pass. I agree with you, bro. But they got exposed because I don't believe they tried to kill this guy. But they wanted to prove a point. And you know what? They represent a bunch of dudes in our backyard right now that they go to work the same way because they got bullied when they went to school and they trying to kick somebody's ass. And now they got a wake up call. You mess around and do that, your ass going to jail too. Bottom line. That's it. So we kind of, so as a clergy, I got to kind of give a little bit of a preachy point on it. I know it's hard, but we got to look at the bright side if there was one. And that is that hopefully it done scared enough people that you've been doing this and you ain't killed nobody yet. But keep going. And the example needs to be set. So shout outs to the police commissioner that said, you know what? These dudes fired. The prosecutor on them. That's what you got to do now. And it's sadly enough, y'all did it. Y'all got to pay. And we need to see that.
That's true.
No, I agree, but I think James, before we pivot and you go in another direction.
No worries. I'm just going to address some of the comments.
Yeah, I hope we attack two things. One, we got to attack and be real with ourselves. There's corruption in police forces, right? That we've been known that. We know that for years. Yeah. That there's corruption, and that part needs to be addressed. Whatever's going on, and then two, I want to pivot into the media situation with this, like and the swift call to action to charge these officers, because just not 2 years ago, we had some white officers choking. We saw choke a man to death on film, and it took them forever to kind of come to a resolution to put these people on blast.
That was actually the next thing I was going to get into. Okay, go ahead.
You're right.
And now we got in within 2 days, we got them charged with murder, already indicted and everybody's going. So what's really going on?
Yeah.
You know, because again, the white officer that shot the paraplegic, he's out on administrative leave. He's not been charged. Matter of fact, I don't even think none of us have seen his face on TV.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
He shot a man.
Right.
He shot a man that had no legs. Why is his face not plastered over TV just like these 5 white officers?
Yeah. This is the
Come on, man.
primary
I mean,
story. This is the primary story on time.com, and it shows no pictures of the officer or anything else. It just shows.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So what I'm saying, we got to look at that too, man. The media is really, they still putting us as animals.
Mm.
Look at them. They even attack each other. Look at those animals. Even when we give them a chance, look what they do. They do to their own. Yet, just 3,000 miles away, a coward ass cop shot a guy that's a paraplegic. You mean you can't subdue a paraplegic? Even though they said he had a knife, but you can't subdue a paraplegic. You can't tase a paraplegic and get him out of the chair and arrest him. You shot him, he had to shoot him dead. Man, this stuff that's going on with these policemen
That use of having to go
beyond.
to that extreme, right? It's
Yeah.
crazy. It doesn't even make sense. And for folks, I will put all of the links to all these stories in the description so you can see them. I wanted to backtrack again, just for a quick second, and give some acknowledgement to some of these comments here. I saw some folks were saying, Nooshman, hey, listen, Sac State, that's alma mater, man. So would love to come and bring Team No Sleep to Sac State. So appreciate the mention on that. And let's see here, Chief, I will make sure that you get Keith's contact information so he can come and maybe have a conversation with you and your colleagues as well. That's what this is all about, right? At the end of the day, having this dialogue and blossoming that dialogue out so we can do something to make some change. Montel, you touched on something, and I want to ask you this, Brian and Josh. I want to ask you 2 things, because Montel talked about it. Where is the Blue Lives Matter? Right, because it's a whole different situation now when it's black on black on black on black on 7. I'm not 7 against 1, right? And 20 minutes after the situation, everyone's indicted, everyone's in jail, everyone's been arrested. All that happened, and we haven't heard nothing. We just being very observant here. Haven't heard nothing from the cops saying this is what we do. It unfortunately turned into this type of situation. Wish it had. Haven't heard nothing. Crickets. So on either side, either the pros or the cons, I haven't heard no one stand up for their colleagues in blue, because, in my opinion, they are looked completely different. Y'all saw the quote from James Baldwin I put up earlier. And y'all know the lyrics from NWA. Y'all know what Ice Cube said.
Mm-hmm.
Black police showing out for the white cop. There's nothing new. Again, so a swath of our community right now is starting to see some of these things that this panel has seen their entire life, and it's uncomfortable. It's awkward, but again, we're gonna have this conversation. So let me ask again, you guys from the Infusion Network, where do you think the Blue Lives Matter coalition is, and how come they've been so silent? And what is that relationship that we now have with police overall, right? What is the relationship that we as a community have with policing after seeing this? I know it's gotten worse, but again, what is that gut-wrenching feel that you feel now after watching this situation and after the other ones that have happened, even subsequently to the Tyree Nichols thing, which is only a week old?
First, my perception of the police hasn't changed as a consequence of this. It wasn't exactly positive. And so this is within the realm of what we've seen before. It's not unprecedented. It's not something that we have never seen before and just completely caught us off guard. I think one of the things that may take people aback is the actual participants in the incident. But in itself, this is not anything new. And so I want to address your point about the Blue Lives Matter advocates. Where are they at? And I think the biggest piece there is perception. How is this perceived? And so if we take a step back to Whitlock, I didn't actually watch his full commentary. I'm not all the way familiar with who he is, but based off what you just said, he is being paraded around like on these conservative news networks, conservative channels, as the Uncle Ruckus, essentially. And so with that, he is invalidating this is not a police issue. This is a black issue. And so that's why the Blue Lives Matter advocates are not speaking up, because this has been transformed into something that it's not. Well, not in its entirety, because as Josh said, and I kind of chimed in a little bit.
How powerful is
Does
that? Hold on, man. Listen, but what you just think about that? What
That's good.
this man has had the audacity to change his whole. Come on, Keith. I know you itching to talk.
No,
I know you felt that right there.
I want Brian to finish. I like what he
Man.
said. I feel
Go
it.
ahead, brother. I'm sorry, man. The audacity of this man to change this whole conversation from an eye on what's really happening to, oh no, look over here.
Correct.
Don't look over here behind this curtain. Don't look at what's really going
Correct.
on. Put this mirror on
Correct.
on y'all. Man, go ahead, man. I'm gonna be
And
quiet.
he might actually believe that, which is, like I said, it's a very incomplete picture. Everything that happens is a multivariate equation. And so, of course, you do have the mental component, the inferiority complex within the power structure, as Josh illustrated and we touched on before, but it's much larger. Like I said, if you change the players, you get the same end result. So why is this happening?
Yeah.
And so when he says these things like that, he is the perfect poster child to mitigate any blame or responsibility. Thank you. A Jedi mind trick, a very poor, or in this fact, it probably should be called a Sith mind trick. But it's a very poor attempt into subverting the whole argument that this is an issue within law enforcement that has to be addressed. It's like, oh well, you black guys, you get in power and you still beat up your brothers, you beat up somebody else who looks just like you, which it did happen. But you look at the underlying causes, the implications, and how we arrive there. I think that's it's focusing on something that is not solvable as opposed to something that is. It's like when you have a camera lens, you have the aperture adjusted incorrectly, and you're not able to view the actual image, and so it's distorted. And so these conservative news networks, who we know their agenda, they have a certain image and a certain certain groups of interest that they'd like to protect. So they find someone like that, and it's like, okay, well, let's put him on here, and they eat it up. They don't give a damn about him. They don't care about what's his name, Whitlock. They don't care about him at all. It's just he's saying the right things to them, for them, and so they'll put him up on the screen and let him talk his shit, say whatever he wants to say, whether it's accurate or inaccurate. Which, like I said, it's very much so misinformed, and they're fine with that. That's exactly what it is. Like you said, it's an opinion network. I would even take a step further and say it's a propaganda network.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
That's that coon talk.
y'all
That's
y'all
that
hitting
coon
hard
talk.
right here. Folks, I hope y'all taking some
good.
notes,
That's
because
good.
we finding we're not turning this into a bitch and moan session, and we're trying to have some constructive dialogue. But Ryan just came through with some gems there that are actionable and really shone the light on where the majority of mainstream media, mainly the opinion networks, are steering this entire conversation, turning it back on ourselves, our culture. It's our fault. It's our fault that these officers killed this young man, or even these other subsequent situations that have happened within this past week.
Man,
That's
he
a
put
trip,
that
man.
so. Man, I applaud you. You put it in such a great way.
That was
But
tough, wasn't it?
it's the big the deflect, right? It's always the deflect.
Yeah.
Oh, don't it's that big that the deflect coin they always want to spin on us. Whenever there's a situation, it puts a bad light on things that matter to them, right? If it matters to them and something goes on and they did something wrong, that now they want to deflect. And I think you put it in such a way that I don't think nobody can top that. So hand clap, man. He needs to get a hand clap on that one. on things. That was really put really well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So Josh, and we're going to wrap up soon in a little bit, but and maybe go into some other things, and I'm going to look at some of the comments that's going as well. Where, Josh, let me ask you this: where do we lead the discussion from here? Because now we see that's where it is right now. That's where if I turn this TV on right now and I look at CNBC, if I look at CBS, Fox, ABC, or whatever, that's almost where the conversation is, right? We need to pull everyone out. We need to start all over, but that's not the answer, right? Again, where does that reform happen? At what levels? How do we change that direction and that narrative? How do we be more vocal as opposed to Jason Whitlock? And how do we influence change into the ones that are making these decisions. How do we rise up and be the voice of reason in situations like this so we don't have another one of these situations happen again too soon? Yeah, it's going to happen. I'm a realist, right? But how do we make it so this doesn't happen again tomorrow? I know that's unfair. But anyone can answer that. I know that's unfair, but that's kind of the question that I guess that I'm asking. How do we fix this, man? Because I'm tired of hashtags. I'm tired of sayings. I'm tired of wearing shirts, and I'm tired of giving thoughts and prayers. and I'm tired of seeing young black men being gunned down, shot down, and the man just says he wants to go home, right? And because he's getting beat up by 5 people that look like him, and then when everyone else shows up, they don't do nothing. So
I think it starts with ourselves. We of course have to look at ourselves and understand our own faults and everything. And I think it starts on every level, whether local, federal, all of that. But just to your question that you asked about the Blue Lives Matter, like where are they at? I thought that was an interesting question because I don't remember seeing anything about the Blue Lives Matter at all throughout this entire news outlet at all. So I think it's funny that you brought it up. And I think someone said something in the comments. Her name was Kiana. She said they see them as black before blue. So when you see them as black before blue, you're less likely to stand up and actually protect them in instances like this. And the other thing you said about where we go from there, I think now Brian is right. I think Brian is along the right lines, but I think we're now more cautious of our own because now we're going to look at our own police officers, black police officers, be like, oh, whoa, can we actually trust you? Are we actually there? But the actual solution I would say is we have to come together. We have to be more unified. We have to take those risks that Montel was talking about. We have to understand that it's freedom for everybody, not just freedom for 1 or 2 people. We have to do that, and we have to look ourselves in the mirror and understand our own inferiorities and go about fixing that, and then fixing the actual relationship between the strenuous relationship between police and black and brown people in all these communities, because it is a strenuous relationship.
In terms of an actual action, so I want to see outcomes. And Josh, you're right in the realm of the mental landscape, what needs to occur. But in terms of tangible results, when these officers commit these heinous crimes, the action can't just be administrative leave. It can't just be firing the officer and charging them. Okay, that's a nice start. Convictions, that's the big one. Then also pension plans, they need to be taken away.
I
Because
was about
unless
to say
you
that.
wow,
That's the other thing.
hit him literally where it hurts. Okay,
That's another thing I didn't
exactly
mention. I do think that pensions, the police officers' pensions, should automatically go to the family if something like this happens.
correct.
The entire pension
And
should actually go to the family. But go on, Brian. I'm
and
sorry.
so no, I'm glad we're on the same page, Josh. And so the great Dick Gregory, he made a statement based off of what we're currently seeing today, police brutality. And he said it all comes down to there aren't any consequences of the financial sort. And so if you force them to make a decision, do you really hate me more than you like providing for your family? That shifts what happens.
wow.
Because if there's consequences, the problem here is whenever you have rules that aren't enforced, so of course they are subject to the same rules that we are. Their police officers aren't supposed to kill. That's not anything new. The problem is there aren't any consequences, and consequences is the piece that's missing. If you have a rule or a boundary that is repeatedly crossed and not enforced, what good is it? And so that needs to happen. And especially when it comes down to finances, that's the language everyone speaks. It's universal. When you start to revoke pension plans and start to have financial consequences, then I feel like things will start to change. And until then, I think that everything else is performative and maybe done with good intention might be a good start, but it's very incomplete and we're going to get the same result.
You know what? So like on the lines of mending all this, because I'm like the preacher guy in the room, so I believe unity. So here's what's crazy: you take what we got from Montel, right? And like I look at him like keep the foot on the gas. I need people in my circle like that. It's like no F that, and we gonna like like don't get soft, get soft. Like he reminds me of one of my brothers that's like that. Like everybody's like, well you got. He like no, I'm tired of talking. Bussy, like let's get this done. Here it is. Now y'all can help me on this. Is it fact or fiction? The commissioner stood up and said, because they were like, because somebody addressed the 300-pound gorilla in the room, which a lot of people that don't know, they just on social media like, oh, it took them forever to do that with the other thing. That's a fact. This one went quicker. Is it just because that they were black, or is she just blowing smoke saying they implemented the law? Because I heard Don Lemon say it, and I trust them. They said that since the George Floyd, people that were thinking like us, thinking like the Montel, had their foot on the gas while everybody was like, all right, we done had the parade. They had a great funeral service. And and now here comes the insurrection. Everybody forgot it. We chasing Trump down. Everybody forgot it. It's other people that was still in the cut working to say, in case something like this come up again, we can't wait 6 months to say, yo, he the one did it. The guy in the video is him. So what I heard, now I don't know the facts on there. I just saw the lady announce it and said, we were able to do this because people got out, got in the offices, and we implemented that. Had we not did that, then we wouldn't have been able to get them that quick. We don't have to believe that that's actually it. And we could know that maybe at one point in time, y'all still would have did this. But if there's a law in place, this is what we're talking about making change happen. And we telling people, y'all got to get out and vote, rock the vote, rock the vote. That is a narrative, right? That's true. But we can't just keep sitting on, oh, it's just always going to be the same way. So the issue now is like, is that a true thing that the law did change? So that now, at least going forward, we have to work from there and know that judgment comes swiftly now. So that kind of affects it across the board. If that is true, I'm not saying it's true. I don't know all the facts, but that's what I was like looking like, oh, so y'all do at least have an answer for why this happened quicker. Because my whole thing is, oh, they all black guys, so y'all quick to get everybody. Because here's the thing, the firemen, they like, yo, that one got to go too. That one got to go. And yes, they didn't put the white dude face up there. They still not plastering it. I get that part. That's media. But the fact that they are getting them and the prosecutor left it open to say, y'all got to come in too. So they telling Becky and Bob and all them like, yo, I know y'all white, but they about to get y'all too. And we can't protect you. So maybe we are getting at least some kind of change towards moving the needle in further on the record.
I think you're right to a point. They wanted to make it. They wanted to make some noise and make a statement. But if that was true, then how come the same white cop ain't arrested for killing that paraplegic?
I got you, but that's a question.
But what I'm saying.
But hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying, because this is what ends up happening with us a lot of times. I've been a pastor for over 15 years. I'm done now, but I've been a pastor. And I had to be in the same place where when you got one of these idiots that say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing behind closed doors, cheat on his wife, wild out and snorting cane or whatever. And they say, see, y'all, because I got black cop family and friends that ain't like them dudes. So to get generalized, that means you got to ride with something that you ain't. Why aren't we like really just helping the people that are the right cop to speak up? And if we think all blue is bad, then we can say we don't need blue. Well, my sister who just got robbed, we needed somebody blue. I don't care if they's black, white, Chinese, Puerto Rican. I need them on the street to stop that kid from stealing my stuff. So what do we do other than that? We just talking and we not looking at everybody ain't bad. Deal with it as it is. And this is just on CNN. But I mean, in every other city, some of the same crap is happening.
Yeah.
So we can't be that angry over the one thing and generalize it and say all. Like, I'm like, let's narrow it down to that.
I get you. I mean, you definitely want to highlight the bad out of the good, but I mean, they generalize us. We all black men. We generalize. We all the same as far as they're concerned in their eyes. So generalization is just a part of life. That's just gonna happen. And you're right. Okay. We need to highlight the bad ones.
I got you.
I got you. And we do need to highlight. We need to celebrate the good ones and highlight the bad ones. But man, bottom line in this situation, in this power structure the way it is, we're bottom on the totem pole. We are the last in the pecking order, and they treat us like that, and they beat on us like that. And at this point right now, this point in time right now, there needs to be more highlight and pressing the gas pedal on reform. It needs. If there's any time to shine light on it, it's shine light on it now. And we need people in power to say this absolutely have to do it. And it starts. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna point it straight out. It needs to be Kamala Harris to be the first one to go through the door. She needs to take the bullet right through the door. She needs to be the one we're gonna do reform because she has the power to make federal money go towards that and make reform happen. Maxine Waters doesn't have it. We don't have it. Our local communities don't have it. Our local mayors don't have it. She has the power to do that. But you know what? She won't. And I'm freaking tired of people that won't do it. When they even know what's right, they won't do it. That's the part. This is why we're having this discussion. Black cops beat no people. They beat no people for a long time. No one does anything right because people don't want to do what's right. The first person I've ever seen that's done really what's right in this case has been the police chief of Memphis. She's been on she's not ducking any questions. She's having accountability. She's holding everybody accountable, and she's poking holes in everything that's going on with the situation to make it right. How come Kamala Harris can't make it right and doing police reform? How come people just can't do right by other people? That's the frustrating part right there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you actually made that statement about the police chief, and that's actually some of the primary reason why I brought up the Jason Whitlock situation and conversation to debunk him, because everything he says is just garbage coming out of his mouth. And I almost challenge. I hear what you're saying. I almost challenge you though about the reform at the local levels. We got some folks here in the community that are at the local level in policy and elections, things like that. If we could do more action than talking though, right? Let us talk here on this panel and let us have the discussion. Let us be emotional, let us be raw, but then let us be constructive. But man, come on. I'm not going to call anybody out by their name, but here, folks, y'all who are in those positions, get into those city council meetings, get into those mayors, get into those situations where you can help affect change with the police. Yeah, I have also had more negative situations with police than positive. So I don't have. No, right. So again, I'm fearful of the police for the fact that I'm a father of two, and they're out there in these streets, and they have to deal with these situations. And everyone here who's a parent on this panel and in the community listening has had that conversation with their kids about getting pulled over, getting stopped, or whatever, and what you do and going through the ritual. So we've all had that conversation. Why? Because again, we are scared of what's going on and what could happen.
I see you.
Okay. See, no,
I see you.
So listen, Montel is making it plain right here in reality. He's at the airport.
Send us your location so we know. He's like, keep the camera running.
Okay,
keep the camera running, bro.
Yeah, he looking at me right now. He going crazy. So
hey, two weeks ago we were talking madness about Dana White, and he pulled down my internet. Now here we are talking about Blue, and they sitting right there behind you, probably running your ID. Be safe out there, brother. But let's close this because I wanted to be cognizant of everyone's time, and I know we got some of you on the East Coast as well, and that doesn't mean we have to stop this conversation as a society and as a community. Let me start with you, Josh, then go to you, Brian, go to you, Keith, and then Mr. Allen. I'll let you close it out. What is a logical step for us to do as we're seeing what's happening as this particular, there's so many other stories that are evolving. As this particular story continues to evolve, right now, it started at 5, now it's at 7. Tomorrow it could be some EMTs, it could be some the person who wrote the fake police report. That person needs to be dealt with, right? They probably weren't even, I don't know, they probably weren't even at the scene, and why are they writing a fake police report, right? So all of these questions are going to come out, and we're just going to get more and more angry. If you haven't seen the video, I know, Montel, you were saying go watch the video, or somebody was saying go watch. Listen, there's some mental anguish with watching the video. It doesn't matter who you are, because when that young man was calling for his mother, and he says, "I just won't go home," and he's saying, "Y'all police are really doing too much right now." That has a toll on anyone who has any mental feeling, right? Any thought of feeling for their common human being. So, Josh, what are you going to do tomorrow? What do we do tomorrow to get better? How do we affect some change?
We continue
Guys,
to.
I always start the hard ones with you, right? But see, welcome to Team No Sleep. But
Get it, Josh. Get it,
I'm
Josh.
gonna bring you in and start the hard ones with you. I'm even gonna
No,
bring
I
you
think
solo. Come on, man, it's all you now.
no, I think we have to look at ourselves on a micro level, continue to build our positions of power, and once we get in these positions of power, we can't forget of where we came from. We can't forget about our people, and once we in these positions of power, we have to remember to change the policies and rules, and not just be another stand-in for these people in these positions of power. Or be another token black person in these positions of power. So I think it starts with unity. Like tomorrow, what I do, one thing I didn't say, I work with kids for a living. I work with kids with autism. I'm RBT. So uh, I the best way to fix the trauma is to start with the kids. So you start with the kids and you can fix them that way. Because it's definitely hard to change behavior from adults afterwards. So I think we got to become more unified. We got to remember who we are, and then once we get in these positions of power, uh, we have to change the policies and make life better for black and brown people everywhere, because if not, these things will continue to happen if these policies and these rules continue to be in the same uh continue to be the same as they were 40 years ago, 50 years ago, because that's all it really is. It's just the
Yeah,
same rules, different era.
Brian, what about you, sir?
There's a number of things. So, of course, what Josh said certainly holds true. I would say another step is to make sure that we're formally and thoroughly informed on legislation and how exactly it's formed. And so most people they can tell you, okay, go out and vote. That's a no-brainer. But what exactly comes afterwards? So lobbying. Everybody, well, most people should know what lobbyists are, but those are the people who really drive change. So it's a whole nother layer that people are unaware of and completely completely untouched by us that is at play that has the ability to influence these kind of things. So I feel like the more we can educate ourselves on how exactly we can drive influence, it makes it easier for it to be actionable. Because if all we're doing is going and voting every 4 years, which historically presidential elections are the highest turnouts, if that's all we're doing, we're not going to see any kind of real change. And so it starts at the local level, of course, but look at what happens subsequently. And I think that that's going to require a lot of us to do due diligence. And I mean, it's going to be a hard battle, but somebody has to do it. It starts with us.
That's true. That's true. Shouts out to Mr. Moderator here. Kevin Cox is actually sending out the links for the Infusion Network. So I appreciate you, man. And I will definitely put that in the description as well. So Brian and Josh, that information will be available for everyone.
Thank you.
A logical solution needs to be for traffic cops and tickets need to be written and not have police have arresting powers over traffic stops. Interesting
I never
comment,
thought about
interesting
that.
statement. Okay, Talbot, appreciate you coming in, but again, at some level, we need to figure out how to make there more protecting and serving than maybe having an external situation, because that's what the news cycle is showing, that there may be an external circumstance that particularly drove this situation right here, right? Young brother Nichols probably had an affair or relationship with one of the officers' girlfriends, so there was extra undue pressure. But again, professionals, 5 men, an elite force, Scorpions, which now has been disbanded, which is now, these elite police forces are now being looked at as maybe this is not the right thing to do, because they are probably not trained effectively, and going into these situations and think that they can be vigilante with our citizens and with our youth and with our people is definitely not the right way to go. And without having the right oversight, we're going to have more news cycles like this, and we just can't have that. Keith Pelzer, talk to us, man. How are we going to get better? What you going to do tomorrow?
You know what is understanding my lane. We're all on the same highway, right? People talk about stay in your lane. Sometimes they're real mean when they say it, or they're trying to bully a point across. But the positive side to that is when you look at a highway has more than one lane in most cases. And so stay in your lane doesn't mean that we're not moving in the same direction. It's, I think that when you respect the other lane, you know how to work alongside of. So like if I don't know politics, I don't fake like I know politics and just start blabbing out something, say, oh, rock the vote. It's like, well, what do that mean? Like, are you vetting people? Are you looking at what's going on? One of the things that I just jotted down is how are you influenced by information that you get? So I intentionally watched it because I was down here getting stuff done. And when I watch what I saw, I look at what's my influence. The influence off of it or the emotion from it, I learned when I'm just in chit chat talk mode, when it's necessary to talk for influence or change. And then when it's just talking to be talking, like know when you're talking to people that's just going to perpetuate a conversation, keep going, and you missing everything that's happening right here. Like we may all not be able to go to, where this happened at, or go to LA where the next thing happened at that was mass known, right? The word mass, now when you have something that grows, it's like, cancer is a mass, right? And so now everything is massive because of we have so much information, but how does that affect you? We have to really dig in and say, okay, internalize what you saw, what you feel, and if you can deal with your circle of influence, it's going to magnify itself into a bigger, situation. It's going to help because again, we're in a day and age where it can keep happening like this. And whatever the media try to push up, that is a situation, it's going to do that. But we're missing what's happening in our own backyard. And so we really take care of the backyard. Evangelism wasn't about, hey, everybody come to Jerusalem. It's like, go ye therefore. So it's like, go back to where you are off of what you've seen that happen here and make change there, right? Because you're not going to be able to control the whole United States. The people that can, as my brother Montel is saying, the people that are in the positions that we voted for, you got to do something. You held accountable to do it. That's like when I was pastoring and the kids coming home like, I don't know nothing about the Bible. It's like, that's my job. Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? Fire this guy if he just talking about, in this next season, you're going to be a millionaire. Dog, that's not scripture. Like, teach what you're supposed to be saying. Do your job. And so if we doing a vote and we got people in the places, we hold them accountable, that's where I hate to say that word, we hope for change, right? And then we got to brace ourselves because, the biggest trick of the enemy is to make you think he doesn't exist. Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, one of them two, right? And so there's that Jedi mind trick that happens. We war not with flesh and blood, but against principalities, right? I'm not trying to get religious on here, but principalities means that it's always something above what we can even really think. And so we have to deal with what we can think about and do. Take the nuggets and stuff that we got. I learned something from each one of y'all on here, and that's going to influence me on how I talk at the next table rather than just talking. It's like, okay, what actually can I do? And remember, I don't need to put cops on a pedestal. I need to challenge and be like, yo, bro, how you feel about that situation? You a black cop.
Yeah.
Talk to that guy, like throw that in the arena and get them to speak out. Black cops right now should be repenting on what them guys did. It don't matter if you was the bad guy or not. You need to have an opinion and you need to state your position. That was effed up what they did. They was dead wrong. I am not that guy. That's what needs to be said. So all that quietness, I don't like that quietness. I don't take it from white folk. I don't take it from black folk. When it's like, yo, white man had his knee on that guy's neck. You, my white friend, I need to know how you feel about that. You see what I'm saying? I need to hear you. It don't make you righteous, but I want to know what you got to say about that.
Yeah.
Because that's what's good. You people. I'm sorry.
Look, listen, and we can keep going on long and long, but again, I want to be cognizant of time and Montel in the airport.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm cutting my mic off.
But see, that's the exact reason why I was asking, what is our now, how come we don't hear anything from the Blue Lives Matter crowd, right? How come no one is speaking up about what's going on? And especially, as the song says, the black police showing out for the white. How come they are not coming up and saying something? How come they're not on Snapchat and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and wherever saying something that I'm one of the good ones? This is horrible. This is bad. Maybe they are. Listen, I don't watch every single channel. I don't know everything that's going on. I just know what's affecting me in this household. But I am not seeing the subsection of the quality men and women of authority that wear those suits, that have those batons, that have those tasers, that have those guns, and have the ability to use them. I don't see enough of those good ones, and I'm sure that there are, coming out and saying anything about this should not have happened. I decry this, I defy this, all of those negative adjectives, right? But we're just not seeing that. Instead, we're seeing the Jason Whitlock saying this all happened because of Memphis is run by a single black woman, and that's the whole degradation of the black community. Montel, talk before we go for another hour, man.
Them cops
Nah,
still
I
out
think
there looking at